This is the Ohio AgNet, broadcasting from the Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by BASF and Zidua, the most trusted name in herbicides, providing Ohio soybean and corn acres with up to 2 weeks more residual activity and broad-spectrum weed control. Good Wednesday morning to you. Some storm damage across Ohio overnight from the line of weather that rolled in. Looks like interesting weather could continue this week, along with a cool down ahead this weekend. We'll talk more about weather in just a bit. But first, a couple calendar notes to pass along. Powered by Soy Biodiesel, don't forget to tune in later today to the Ohio Field Leader Roadshow. Dusty travels to Lorain County to visit with Eric and Adele Flynn of Gordon Farms and Flynn Livestock. The Ohio Field Leader, a project of the Ohio Soybean Council and Soybean Checkoff. And then tune in tomorrow as we get our monthly Farm Credit Mid-America check-in. Again, all of that right here on the Ohio AgNet. It's time for the weekly Buckeye Temp Tracker, where we're taking a look at Ohio soil temperatures in 4 locations around the state. And what a change from last week, my goodness. The Buckeye Temp Tracker is brought to you by BA Genetics. Real service, real results, with weekly updates from Ottawa, Preble, Licking, and Medina counties. As of April 14th, the average temperature in corn stubble across our 4 locations is 62.75 degrees. That's 11 degrees warmer than the same time a year ago. And bean stubble averaging 63 degrees. That's 10 degrees warmer than last year. And county by county, Ottawa County checked in at 62 in corn stubble and 64 in bean stubble. Preble County was 64 and 64 each. Licking County came in at 64 in the corn stubble and 62 degrees Fahrenheit in beans, while Medina County reported 61 in corn stubble and 62 in bean stubble. And last week we were hovering right in the low to mid 30 degrees, so what a change there. It could be interesting to see after a cool down this weekend what next week's soil temperatures could be. The full interactive Buckeye Temp Tracker online today at ohioagnet.com. Head on over there, along with plenty of other news, including carbon credits still drawing interest, new thoughts on corn acreage, and how Ohio soybeans are finding markets around the world. Today's news feed is brought to you by Timpte, now factory direct in Sydney, Ohio. From trailer sales to parts and trailer service, their team is ready to keep you moving. Stop in today or call 326-206-2062. We start with a look at carbon credits, where interest remains strong as farmers look for additional revenue opportunities. A new piece highlights that carbon credits, essentially tradable certificates tied to practices that store carbon in the soil, and while they can offer income potential, they also come with questions around verification, consistency, and long-term value. Some answers there. In the markets, analysts are watching corn acreage closely. One commentary notes that the latest USDA report showed a little change in carryout, and markets didn't react much, shifting attention instead to planting intentions. Acreage decisions this spring could play a major role in price direction moving forward. And finally, a look at Ohio soybeans on the global stage, a feature story highlighting how relationships are key to exporting Ohio-grown soybeans, with products traveling thousands of miles to international buyers. You can read all those stories and more at ohioagnet.com. And let's talk weather thanks to Seed Consultants. Simply better performance. Online at seedconsultants.com. Over to Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin.
Rain shower action trying to spread across the Buckeye State over the next couple of days. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at that forecast update. Had some decent moistures fill in over northern parts of Ohio overnight last night. And I think through the day today, we see some lingering action, refiring of showers and thunderstorms here later this afternoon into this evening. But the best rains to come will probably be for tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow overnight. I still think we can see anywhere from a quarter to 1.25 inches of rain. The biggest threat for strong to severe thunderstorms or heavy rain seems to want to be staying just a bit farther to our west. We are dry everywhere on Friday, pleasant as well, and then a frontal boundary comes through for Saturday and Saturday night, bringing anywhere from a quarter to 1 inch across the Buckeye State. Behind that front, significantly colder air for Sunday and for Monday. Frosts and freezes in over the northern part of the state, warming the rest of next week with rain coming back Thursday, Friday. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thank you, Ryan. Again, weather brought to you by Seed Consultants. New farm machinery numbers are in. Joe Everett has the story.
Tractor and combine sales saw a noticeable drop across the United States and Canada in March, another sign of pressure facing the ag economy right now. New numbers from the Association of Equipment Manufacturers shows U.S. tractor sales were down just over 9% compared to a year ago, while combine sales fell more than 25%. The biggest slowdown is showing up in larger equipment. Tractors over 100 horsepower dropped nearly 25% in March, pointing to some hesitation when it comes to bigger investments on the farm. Up in Canada, the trends are even more pronounced. Tractor sales were down more than 16%, and combine sales dropped sharply, falling over 60% compared to last year. Industry leaders say these numbers reflect the overall softness we're seeing in agriculture right now, with tighter margins and more cautious spending. But even with that pullback, there's still a long focus on upgrading equipment and adopting new technology, something they say will help position the industry for long-term growth once conditions improve. For the Ohio AgNet, I'm Joe Everett reporting.
Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with more farmer news after this.
Hey farmers, planting season is almost here, and Ohio AgNet wants to bring lunch to your farm. Our Feeding Farmers contest is going statewide, and we'll soon be picking farms across Ohio to receive a visit from the Ohio AgNet and free lunch for your farm family and crew. If you'd like us to stop by, get signed up today. Just visit ohioagnet.com/feedingfarmers to enter. Feeding Farmers is brought to you by Ag Revolution, Paradise Energy Solutions, and the Ohio AgNet, the voice you know with the news you trust.
You're listening to the Ohio AgNet. Ohio ag leaders recently traveled to Vietnam to sign a memorandum of understanding, and our own Brianna Smith has details.
Ohio soybean farmers could see new opportunities overseas following a recent trade mission to Vietnam and Japan. Ohio Department of Agriculture Director Brian Baldridge joined representatives from the Ohio Soybean Council on the trip, where a new memorandum of understanding was signed with Vietnam to strengthen trade ties. This memorandum of understanding builds upon the MOU that was signed here in Ohio last year when Vietnamese officials visited the Buckeye State. Baldridge says building those relationships is critical as farmers look for stronger markets and better prices. Here's more.
It was great to spend the time with the Ohio Soybean Council in Japan and Vietnam and just realize how critical those markets are as we look to those opportunities. For me, being in the role here at ODA, going on year 4, just realizing this was an area that we needed to lift back up at the Ohio Department of Agriculture, and that's international trade and marketing. This is a true classic example of where that program, partnering with our agricultural community here at the Department of Agriculture, has showcased a great opportunity to really hear from me firsthand from the conversations that we had. In Vietnam, we really the interest to grow, the interest to really look for our future and our markets. And right now in the ag space, inputs are up and our prices are not where they should be. So we have to control and do our best to create new opportunities and new markets. And that is exactly what we did on this trip. To hear from folks from these countries that talked about the quality, the consistency levels of protein that we have to offer here in our soybeans from Ohio made me proud as the director of ag to know that our farmers are doing great work when it comes to really providing a high quality product. It was really good to sit with and across from the Deputy Minister of Vietnam's Ministry of Agriculture and really have those conversations, and the signing of the MOU reciprocal. It was great to do that as they were here, as was mentioned. So that was for me really exciting, and we were there showcasing and really focusing 100% on Ohio soybeans. But even the minister brought up other great agricultural commodities, whether it was corn or hardwood, that he wanted to continue to talk about. And again, in our ag community, most of our soybean farmers are corn farmers, including myself. So I was really excited to hear other sidebar conversations from that standpoint, but really showcasing the opportunities here. And Japan, just that long relationship that Ohio has had with Japan, especially when it comes to food grade. But in Japan, what really came to mind and really was great from our conversations was their priority when it comes to sustainability. And I was able to take a deep dive in and explaining the H2 Ohio Water Quality Program. And they were so interested in that program and what we were doing here in Ohio, leading states by far when it comes to water quality and sustainability conversation across the country. Ohio is at the forefront and the lead in this topic conversation. So we showcased that that as well. And it was really interesting, and there was a lot of back and forth conversations when it came to that. So I was glad to be part of this. I appreciated the offer, and it was really, really a great opportunity.
Ohio ranks 7th nationally in soybean production, producing about 258 million bushels in 2025. Approximately 1/3 of all soybeans produced in Ohio are exported to international markets, making it the state's top agricultural export. Japan and Vietnam were priority markets for this mission based on strong existing relationships and demand for high-quality U.S. soybeans. Reporting for Ohio's Country Journal and Ohio AgNet, I'm Brianna Smith.
Thank you, Brianna. And some other farm news, a new survey out from the American Farm Bureau Federation focusing on how fertilizer is impacting farmers right now. More than 5,000 farmers across the country responded to that survey, talking about the rapidly increasing price of fertilizer. Faith Parham is an economist for the American Farm Bureau, tells us it found an overwhelming majority of survey respondents said they can't afford all the fertilizer they need.
Fertilizer purchasing patterns are different by regions. And so in the Midwest, it's more normal to pre-book your fertilizer. So over 67% of our farmers in the Midwest pre-book their fertilizer compared to only 19% in the South. And so we're really seeing regional differences, and farmers who didn't pre-book really got hit by those price increases.
Barham said the differences in regional purchasing patterns are related to the commodities farmers grow, as well as the overall differences in the farm economy. Now, you combine those fertilizer increases with rising fuel prices, and it squeezes bottom lines.
One, we're seeing again those increases in fertilizer prices, but we're also seeing an increase in fuel prices. So this continues to tighten margins for farmers and ranchers across the country. Even if the conflict stopped today and we saw normal shipments resuming, it would take a while for those prices to come back down to normal. So we're going to see the impacts of this for a few months ahead.
You can learn more at fb.org. Again, talking the new survey out from the American Farm Bureau that's taking a look at the price of fertilizer. It's going up. Of course, all comes back to how markets are shaping up for farmers, and we'll take a look at specific overnight market prices when the Ohio AgNet continues up next.
Looking for heavy equipment but don't know where to buy? Purple Wave Auction has you covered. Always online and always no reserve. It's your destination for construction or ag equipment ready to work. We even sell semis, trailers, and fleet equipment for your operation. Best part? It's free to join. Head to purplewave.com. That's purplewave.com. Sign up for a free account and start bidding today. Purple Wave Auction, the easiest and most straightforward way to buy and sell equipment.
Today's market analysis on the Ohio AgNet brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company. Excited to bring a brand new soybean crush facility to Upper Sandusky, Ohio. Learn more about marketing your soybeans with LDC at 574-566-2113. Over to Ryan.
Grain markets mixed yesterday on a barrage of different stories. Let's go first to the wheat market, where we had a very interesting day. Kansas City wheat up double digits. Now, this is going back to some of that dryness story that we were talking about a day or so ago, where the central and western part of the Western Plains or Central Plains is going to be missing most of the significant rains. We're seeing it more in the eastern part of the plains and into the western Corn Belt over the next few days. And so that finally is catching hold. And the big story that we saw yesterday was KC wheat distancing itself from Kansas City wheat. But on top of that, we're also seeing some stock cuts in the wheat that is going to definitely cause a little bit of a balance sheet issue maybe in the days, weeks, months ahead. USDA did report a sale of corn to Mexico, just shy of 320,000 tons, and we did see a little bit of new crop or farther out crop years of corn being sold as well. That got the corn market not super excited, but up. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thank you, Ryan. Let's turn the page to take a look at those specific overnight market numbers. First of all, though, let's talk about how things closed yesterday. Markets brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. May corn ended Tuesday at $4.43 per bushel, up 2 3/4. July corn closed at $4.52.5, up 1.5 cents. May soybeans $11.58 per bushel, down 4 1/4, while July soybeans were see a 4 3/4 drop yesterday, 11.72 3/4. July wheat up a dime to 6.01 1/4. Very nice, especially after a less than positive rating on Monday from USDA's crop progress report for national wheat numbers, but Ohio wheat looking okay. Overnight, May corn up 3.5 to 446.5. July corn up 3 1/4 to 455 3/4. May soybeans up 5 3/4 to 11.63 3/4, while July beans gained 5.5 cents to 11.78 1/4, and July wheat 6.01 3/4 per bushel, up 0.5 cent. Quick look at how things shaped up on Tuesday on the livestock side. April live cattle ended up $1.90, $252.55 their closing price. Hogs for April unchanged, $90.50 per hundredweight, but May hogs down about 63 cents to $94.23. Feeder cattle saw a general gain of about $2 across the board, and a milk class ready for May sitting at $17.17. More farmer news at OhioAgNet.com. I'm Joel Norwood. Thanks for tuning in to the Ohio AgNet.